I've been sitting in this courtroom for 3 hours now, listening to my husband's lawyer drone on about property deeds and investment portfolios, and I haven't said a word. Not one single word. My daughter squeezes my hand under the table, and I give her the smallest smile, just enough to let her know I'm fine. More than fine, actually. I'm exactly where I need to be. The courtroom is smaller than I expected. Dark wood panelling, fluorescent lights that hum just loud enough to be annoying, and that particular smell of old carpet and air conditioning that seems universal to government buildings. My husband sits 20 feet away at the opposing table, leaning back in his chair with that familiar confidence, like he's already won. His lawyer, Mr. Brennan, is maybe 45, with silver temples and a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget used to be. He's been talking for the past 20 minutes about how my husband built our life from nothing, how every asset, every investment, every single piece of our accumulated wealth belongs solely to him. I watch my husband nod along, his expression serious and wounded, like he's the victim here, like I'm the one who destroyed 30 years of marriage. The judge, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses perched on her nose, looks tired. She's probably heard 1,000 cases just like this. Probably seen 1,000 women like me sitting silently while their husbands rewrite history. But she hasn't. Not really. Mr. Brennan is listing assets now. The primary residence at 847 Maple Drive, purchased in 1995, valued at approximately $1.2 million. The vacation property in Lake Tahoe, purchased in 2003, valued at $650,000. The investment portfolio, currently valued at just over $2 million. The business interests in Nguyen Imports, LLC, the rental properties on 5th Street, generating approximately $8,000 monthly income. He pauses, shuffling papers, and I can feel him building to his conclusion. My lawyer, Ms. Chen, sits beside me with her own stack of folders, perfectly still, perfectly calm. She's younger than Brennan, maybe 38, with sharp eyes and a quiet intensity that reminds me of a chess player 3 moves ahead. Your Honor, Brennan continues, my client built this empire through his own intelligence, his own hard work, his own business acumen. While we acknowledge that Mrs. Pao's Nguyen fulfilled her role as a homemaker, the accumulation of these assets was entirely due to Mr. Nguyen's efforts. We're asking the court to recognize that these assets should remain with the person who actually created them. My husband is nodding again. He catches my eye and quickly looks away, but not before I see it, that flash of something. Not guilt exactly, more like wariness, like he's starting to wonder why I'm so quiet. The judge looks at me. Mrs. Nguyen, would you like to respond? I lean forward slightly. My daughter's hand tightens on mine. Ms. Chen glances at me, one eyebrow raised a fraction of an inch, waiting. Not yet, Your Honor, I say. My voice is steady, calm. I'd like to hear more. The judge nods, makes a note. Brennan looks confused for just a second, then continues. But my mind is already elsewhere. Drifting back to the beginning, to the choices that led me here. I was 22 when I met him. Fresh out of college with a degree in business administration and a job offer from a tech startup in San Francisco. The salary wasn't huge, but it had potential. Stock options, room for advancement, all of it. I was excited about my future. I was excited about everything. He was 25, charming, ambitious, working in import-export, and talking about building an empire. We met at a friend's wedding, and he pursued me like I was the only woman in the world. 3 months later, he proposed. 6 months after that, we were married. The first year was good. I kept my job, he built his business. We were partners. Equals. Then I got pregnant with our daughter, and everything shifted. You don't need to work, he said one night over dinner, his hand covering mine. I'm making enough for both of us. Stay home. Take care of the baby. Isn't that what you want? I thought about my job, about the projects I was leading, about the promotion my boss had hinted at, But I also thought about daycare costs, about missing my baby's first steps, about what kind of mother I wanted to be. Maybe for a few years, I said, just while she's little. A few years turned into 30. I threw myself into being a wife and mother the same way I'd thrown myself into my career. I managed our household like a business. I tracked every expense, every investment opportunity. When he wanted to buy the rental properties, I researched neighborhoods, calculated potential returns, negotiated with contractors. When he started his import company, I set up the accounting systems, organized his tax documents, networked with potential clients at dinner parties. I made our house a home, not just clean but beautiful, not just functional, but welcoming. The kind of place where he could bring business associates and impress them. The kind of place where our daughter could thrive. And I never complained. Not when he worked late. Not when business trips got longer. Not even when I started finding receipts for dinners at expensive restaurants on nights he'd told me he was working through dinner at the office. Our daughter noticed before I acknowledged it. She was 15 the first time she asked me directly. "Mum, is Dad seeing someone else?" We were in the kitchen. I was chopping vegetables for dinner, and I remember the knife going still in my hand, the carrot half sliced on the cutting board. "Why would you ask that?" She gave me a look, old beyond her years. "Because he is. We both know it." I went back to chopping. "Your father works very hard. Sometimes that means unusual hours." "Mum," her voice was sharp, frustrated. "Stop protecting him." But I did protect him. For years. Because that's what you do, isn't it? When you've built a life with someone, when you've invested 3 decades, you don't just throw it away. You work on it. You sacrifice. You give it one more chance, and then another, and another. Until the day you can't anymore. Brennan's voice pulls me back to the present. He's moved on to the business assets now, explaining how my husband's company has grown from a modest import operation to a multi-million-dollar enterprise. None of this would exist without Mr. Nguyen's vision and execution, he's saying. His wife, while supportive in her domestic role, had no hand in the actual business decisions that generated this wealth. Ms. Chen makes a small note on her legal pad. I can see the corner of her mouth twitch just slightly. It's not quite a smile. My daughter leans close and whispers, "This is painful to listen to." "I know," I whisper back, "but let him talk." The judge is watching us now, curious. Good. Brennan continues for another 10 minutes, painting a picture of my husband as a self-made man and me as a pleasant accessory to his success. I can see my husband starting to relax, his shoulders loosening, his confidence returning. He probably thinks this is going exactly as planned. Finally, Brennan concludes, "Your Honor, in light of these facts, we believe the equitable division of assets is clear. Mrs. Nguyen should receive reasonable support for her transition to independent living, but the substantial assets should remain with the party who earned them." The judge nods. "Ms. Chen, would you like to present your case?" My lawyer stands, smoothing her jacket. She doesn't rush to the podium. She takes her time, letting the silence build. "Your Honor, my client has been very patient this morning. We've listened carefully to Mr. Brennan's presentation, and there are some significant inaccuracies I'd like to address." "Proceed." Ms. Chen opens the first folder. "Let's start with the primary residence. Mr. Brennan stated it was purchased in 1995. That's correct. What he didn't mention is that the down payment of $80,000 came from the sale of Mrs. Kun Nguyen's late grandmother's property, which she inherited just before the marriage. Without that down payment, my client's husband would not have qualified for the mortgage." I watch my husband's face change. The colour drains a little. Brennan is flipping through papers, caught off guard. Ms. Chen doesn't pause. "The Lake Tahoe property, purchased in 2003, as stated. What Mr. Brennan didn't mention is that Mrs. Nguyen identified the property, negotiated the purchase price down from $725,000 to $580,000, personally oversaw the renovations that increased its value, and has managed it as a rental property for the past 12 years, generating an additional $180,000 in income. She pulls out another document. I have the property management records here. Every booking, every maintenance request, every financial transaction. All managed by Mrs. Nguyen. My husband is leaning forward now, whispering urgently to Brennan. But Ms. Chen keeps going. The rental properties on 5th Street. Mrs. Nguyen located those properties, analysed the market potential, secured the financing when the bank initially declined my client's husband due to his credit score at the time, and has managed those properties for 15 years. I have tenant records, maintenance logs, financial statements, all bearing Mrs. Nguyen's signature, her decisions, her work. The judge is paying full attention now. She's making notes, her expression thoughtful. Ms. Chen turns to face my husband directly. And then there's Nguyen Imports, LLC. Mr. Brennan would have this court believe that company exists purely due to his client's business acumen. Let me present an alternative view. She opens the largest folder, and I know what's coming. My daughter knows too. She sits up straighter, her hand still in mine. Mrs. Nguyen holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from UCLA. For the first 2 years of the marriage, she worked as a business analyst at a tech firm where she was consistently rated in the top 5% of performers. When she left that job to raise their daughter, she didn't stop using those skills. She simply redirected them. Ms. Chen pulls out document after document. These are the financial systems Mrs. Nguyen created for her husband's company, the accounting protocols, the client management database, the inventory tracking system, the tax optimization strategies, all designed, implemented, and maintained by Mrs. Nguyen. I can feel the energy in the room shifting. The judge is fully engaged now, leaning forward. I have testimony from 3 of Mr. Nguyen's business associates. Ms. Chen holds up sworn statements. Each one confirms that Mrs. Nguyen was the person they coordinated with on major deals. One describes her as the brains behind the operation. Another says, and I quote, "I always knew if I needed something done right, I called Mrs. Nguyen, not her husband." Brennan is on his feet. "Your Honour, this is hearsay." "These are sworn affidavits," Ms. Chen says calmly, "and I have each witness available to testify in person if needed." The judge waves Brennan down. "I'll allow it. Continue, Ms. Chen." My lawyer nods. For 30 years, Mrs. Nguyen has been the operational backbone of every asset in this marriage. She identified opportunities, managed resources, maintained systems, and solved problems. She did this while also managing a household, raising a child, and supporting her husband's public-facing role. The wealth accumulated during this marriage is not the result of one person's efforts. It's the result of a partnership. And my client deserves to be recognized as an equal partner. She pauses, then delivers the line we practiced. In fact, Your Honour, I would argue that without Mrs. Nguyen's contributions, many of these assets wouldn't exist at all. The silence that follows is heavy. My husband is staring at the table. Brennan is frantically making notes. The judge is watching me with new interest. "Mrs. Nguyen," the judge says, "would you like to add anything?" This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. I stand up slowly, and my daughter releases my hand. I can feel everyone's eyes on me. "Yes, Your Honour, I would." I walk to the podium and Ms. Chen steps aside. I don't have notes. I don't need them. For 30 years, I believed that sacrifice was the same as love. I believed that giving up my career, my ambitions, my identity was what a good wife did, what a good mother did. I convinced myself that supporting my husband's success was enough, that raising our daughter was enough, that keeping our home, managing our assets, building our life was enough. My voice is steady, but I can feel the emotion underneath it. Not anger, something deeper. I ignored the late nights that got later, the business trips that got longer, the receipts, the lipstick on collars, the perfume that wasn't mine. I told myself it didn't matter as long as I kept the family together, as long as I kept sacrificing. I looked directly at my husband. He can't meet my eyes. But sacrifice without respect isn't love. It's just slow erasure, and I'm done being erased. The judge is completely still, listening. Every asset my husband claims is his alone exists because of work I did, decisions I made, opportunities I identified, systems I built. I have 30 years of documentation to prove it. Email records, financial statements, witness testimony, personal journals. Everything. I pause, and when I speak again, my voice is quieter, but harder. My daughter watched me sacrifice myself for years. She saw me shrink myself to make room for her father's ego. And one day, she sat me down and said, "Mom, you deserve better than this." We both do. She was right. My daughter is crying now, but she's smiling too. I can see her out of the corner of my eye, proud and heartbroken at the same time. I'm not asking for charity, Your Honour. I'm asking for recognition of what I actually contributed to this marriage. I'm asking for what I earned, what I built, what I deserve. I step back from the podium. That's all I have to say. The judge nods slowly. Thank you, Mrs. Nguyen. Mr. Brennan, do you have any response? Brennan stands, but he looks uncertain now. Your Honour, we'd like to request a recess to review the documentation Ms. Chen has presented. Denied. You've had months to prepare your case, counsellor. If you have a response to Mrs. Nguyen's statement, make it now. Brennan looks at my husband, who shrugs helplessly. It's almost funny. For 30 years, he's had an answer for everything. Now he has nothing. Your Honour, Brennan says, his voice less confident than before. While we acknowledge Mrs. Nguyen's domestic contributions, the fact remains that legal ownership of most assets is in my client's name alone. The business is registered solely to him. The investment accounts are in his name. Ms. Chen stands. Your Honour, if I may, California is a community property state. Legal ownership is irrelevant. What matters is when assets were acquired and who contributed to their acquisition and growth. Every asset in question was acquired during the marriage and grew in value due to both parties' contributions. The law is clear. The judge is nodding. I'm familiar with community property law, Ms. Chen. Mr. Brennan, unless you have new information to present, I'm ready to make my preliminary ruling. Brennan sits down, defeated. My husband is pale now, gripping the table edge. The judge removes her glasses, cleans them, puts them back on. It's a delaying tactic, giving herself time to think. When she speaks, her voice is firm. I've presided over many divorce cases in my career. Too many involve one party attempting to claim sole ownership of assets built during a marriage while minimizing the other party's contributions. This case is particularly egregious in that regard. She looks at my husband. Mr. Nguyen, I find your position that you alone created the wealth in this marriage to be unsupported by the evidence. In fact, the evidence suggests the opposite. Your wife identified investment opportunities, managed properties, created business systems, and provided the intellectual and operational foundation for your success. The fact that you may have been the public face of that success does not make you its sole creator. She turns to me. Mrs. Nguyen, I'm impressed by your documentation and by your clear understanding of your own contributions. It's unfortunate that it took a divorce proceeding for those contributions to be fully recognized. The judge makes a note, then continues. My preliminary ruling is as follows. All assets acquired during the marriage will be divided equally between both parties. This includes the primary residence, the vacation property, the rental properties, the investment portfolio, and the business assets of Nguyen Imports, LLC. My husband makes a noise, almost a gasp. Brennan is writing frantically. Additionally, I'm ordering a full forensic accounting of all marital assets to ensure complete accuracy. Mrs. Nguyen, given your role in managing these assets, I assume you have comprehensive records that will facilitate this process? I nod. Yes, Your Honour. Complete records. Excellent. Mr. Inyan, you and your counsel will cooperate fully with this accounting. Any attempt to hide, transfer, or devalue marital assets will result in sanctions. Am I clear? My husband nods mutely. Good. We'll reconvene in 6 weeks for the final hearing. Until then, all marital assets are frozen. Neither party may sell, transfer, or substantially alter any asset without court approval. Court is adjourned. The gavel comes down, and it's over. Just like that. 30 years of marriage, 30 years of sacrifice, 30 years of being invisible. And suddenly, I'm visible again. Suddenly, I matter. My daughter throws her arms around me and we're both crying and laughing at the same time. Ms. Chen is shaking my hand, smiling, saying something about the next steps. Across the room, I can see my husband standing frozen while Brennan talks rapidly in his ear. For just a moment, my husband and I make eye contact. I don't look away. I hold his gaze until he's the one who turns, gathering his papers, following his lawyer out of the courtroom. You did it, Mom, my daughter whispers. You actually did it. We did it, I correct her. I couldn't have done this without you. She pulls back, looking at me with those eyes that are so much like mine used to be, before I learned to make myself smaller. What happens now? I think about the house I've already found. A smaller place with big windows and a garden. I think about the business courses I've been researching, the consulting work I could do. I think about all the years I have left, all the time I thought was gone but isn't. Not really. Now, I say, we live. To 6 weeks later, the final hearing is anticlimactic. The forensic accounting confirmed everything Ms. Chen presented. My husband's lawyer tried to negotiate, offering me 40%, then 45%, but Ms. Chen held firm. 50-50 or we go to trial, and nobody wants a trial. In the end, I get half of everything. The house is sold, and I buy my smaller place outright with my share. The rental properties are divided, the investment accounts are split. The business is more complicated, but eventually, I take a cash settlement for my half, rather than trying to co-own a company with my ex-husband. I don't need the drama, and frankly, I suspect the business will struggle without my organizational systems. That's his problem now, not mine. The first night in my new house, my daughter comes over with takeout and a bottle of wine. We sit on the floor because I haven't bought furniture yet, eating pad thai and drinking from coffee mugs because I haven't unpacked the wine glasses. This place is perfect, she says, looking around at the empty rooms, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. It will be, I say. Eventually. No, Mom. It already is. Because it's yours. She's right. It's mine, not ours. Not his. Mine. The months that follow are a revelation. I wake up when I want to wake up. I eat what I want to eat. I watch the shows I want to watch. Such small things, such basic freedoms, and I never fully appreciated them before. I join a book club. I take a painting class. I volunteer at a financial literacy program for women, teaching them about investment strategies and property management. It turns out I'm good at it. It turns out I have things to teach. I run into old friends, women I lost touch with over the years, and we reconnect. I make new friends, women who are also rebuilding their lives after divorce, after loss, after years of being someone else's support system. We support each other instead. My daughter visits every week. Sometimes we cook together. Sometimes we just talk. Our relationship deepens in ways it couldn't when I was still trying to hold a broken marriage together. She tells me I seem lighter now, younger, more like myself. Was I really that different before? I ask. She considers this carefully. Not different, just dimmer. Like you were conserving energy, running on reserve power. Now you're bright again. 8 months after the divorce is finalized, I'm sitting in my garden, reading a book on business consulting, when my phone rings. It's one of my husband's former business associates, someone I worked with for years. Mrs. Nguyen, he says. I hope I'm not overstepping, but I heard about your divorce, and I wanted to reach out. I'm starting a new import company, and I need someone who really understands operational systems. Someone who can build the kind of infrastructure that makes a business actually work. Would you be interested in consulting? I close my book, smiling. Tell me more. By the end of the call, I have my first consulting client. By the end of the month, I have 3. By the end of the year, I have a business of my own, built on my own terms, using all the skills I spent 30 years perfecting and never got credit for. My daughter comes over for dinner one night, almost a year after the divorce, and finds me at my kitchen table, surrounded by client proposals and financial projections. "You're working," she says, surprised. "I'm building something," I correct her. "Something that's actually mine this time." She hugs me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you, Mom. You know that, right?" I reach up and squeeze her hand. "I know. And I'm proud of us. For having the courage to walk away. For knowing we deserved better." "Do you ever regret it?" she asks quietly. "The divorce, I mean." "All those years you gave him." I think about this. Really think about it. I regret the time I wasted trying to make him see my value. But I don't regret the skills I learned or the strength I built. I don't regret you. And I don't regret finally choosing myself. She's quiet for a moment. "Have you heard from him?" "No. I heard the business is struggling, though. Turns out good operational systems don't run themselves." We both laugh at that, and it feels good. Not cruel, just honest. Acknowledgement of a truth we both always knew. That night, after my daughter leaves, I stand at my kitchen window, looking out at my small garden, my quiet street, my ordinary but completely mine life. I think about who I was a year ago, sitting in that courtroom, afraid but determined. I think about who I was 30 years ago, giving up my career, my independence, myself. And I think about who I am now, 50 years old, divorced, starting over, but also successful, independent, valued, building something new from the foundation of everything I learned. After all those years of sacrifice and pain, after all those years of making myself smaller to fit into someone else's vision of my life, I finally found what I was looking for. Not revenge, not vindication, just freedom. The freedom to be fully myself, the freedom to build my own success, the freedom to live on my own terms. And that freedom, that peace, that simple joy of being enough exactly as I am, that's worth everything I went through to get here. My daughter was right that day in the courtroom. Now we live, and I'm finally, truly, completely alive.